She smiled like she knew a secret I didn't. Turns out that secret was how to steal my entire life, one small piece at a time. Maya had always been the type of person who liked routine. Every morning at exactly 8:15, she would walk through the glass doors of TechFlow Solutions with her coffee in hand and head straight to her desk. It wasn't the fanciest spot in the office, but it was hers. For almost 2 years, that little corner desk by the window had been her workspace, her safe zone, her piece of the corporate world. The desk held all the small things that made the long workdays bearable. A tiny, succulent plant that somehow survived, despite the office's harsh fluorescent lights. 3 family photos showing her parents back home and her younger brother at his graduation. A coffee mug with a chip on the handle that she refused to throw away. Even her nameplate sat there proudly, slightly crooked but perfectly positioned where everyone could see Maya Rodriguez, marketing coordinator. That Monday morning started like any other. Maya pushed through the office doors, balancing her usual vanilla latte and checking her phone for any urgent emails. The marketing department was still mostly empty, which was normal for this time. She liked getting in early to have a few quiet minutes before the chaos of meetings and deadlines began. But as she rounded the corner toward her desk, something felt off. There was someone sitting in her chair, not just using her computer or borrowing her stapler, but actually sitting in her chair, using her desk space as if it belonged to them. Maya stopped walking and stared. The woman looked to be in her 30s with perfectly styled dark hair and a designer blazer that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. She was typing on a laptop that definitely wasn't Maya's, completely focused on whatever she was working on. Maya's personal items were still there, but they had been pushed to one side to make room. For a moment, Maya wondered if she was in the wrong place. Had she gotten confused? Was this really her desk? But no. There were her photos. Her plant, her chipped coffee mug. This was definitely her workspace. Maya cleared her throat gently. "Excuse me," she said, trying to keep her voice friendly and professional. "I think there might be some confusion. This is actually my desk." The woman didn't look up immediately. She finished typing whatever she was working on, saved her document, and only then slowly turned around in the chair. When their eyes met, Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. The woman wasn't embarrassed or apologetic like most people would be when caught in an awkward situation. Instead, she looked completely calm, almost amused. "Oh," the woman said simply, but she didn't move. Maya waited for more of an explanation, maybe an apology, or at least some acknowledgement that she was sitting in someone else's space. But the woman just sat there, studying Maya's face as if she were trying to memorize it. Then slowly, her lips curved into a smile. It wasn't a warm, friendly smile like you'd give to a new coworker. It wasn't even an embarrassed smile like someone who'd made an honest mistake. It was something else entirely. Something that made Maya's skin crawl. The smile seemed to say, "I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm curious to see what you're going to do about it." Maya felt her heart rate pick up. This wasn't normal. People didn't act like this over a simple seating mix-up. I've been using this desk for about 2 years, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Maybe there was some confusion about the seating arrangements? The woman tilted her head slightly, still smiling that unsettling smile. "Confusion," she repeated, as if tasting the word. She didn't move from the chair. By now, a few other early arrivals had noticed the situation. Tom from accounting glanced over from his cubicle with a puzzled expression. Lisa from HR was pretending to organize files at her desk, but Maya could tell she was listening. The whole interaction felt surreal, like a strange dream where normal social rules didn't apply. Finally, after what felt like forever but was probably only 30 seconds, the woman stood up. But she did it slowly, deliberately, never breaking eye contact with Maya. As she gathered her laptop and papers, she leaned slightly closer than necessary. "I'm Vanessa," she said quietly, just loud enough for Maya to hear. "I just started in your department today." Maya nodded, still feeling off balance. "I'm Maya. Welcome to the team. Vanessa's smile widened slightly. I'm sure we're going to get to know each other very well. With that, she walked away toward the other side of the office, her heels clicking confidently against the floor. Maya watched her go, noticing how Vanessa seemed to glide between the cubicles like she owned the place. When she reached a desk, 2 rows over, she set down her things and immediately began arranging them as if she'd been there for months. Maya finally sat down in her own chair, but it felt different somehow. Warmer than usual, like someone else's presence was still lingering there. She tried to shake off the weird feeling and focus on her computer, but she kept glancing toward Vanessa's desk. Every time she looked, Vanessa seemed to be looking back, at her wearing that same knowing smile. "Everything okay?" Tom asked, appearing beside her cubicle with his coffee. Maya forced a smile. "Yeah, just a little mix-up with the new person. No big deal." But even as she said it, Maya knew it wasn't true. Something about the whole interaction felt calculated, intentional. Normal people didn't sit in someone else's desk and then smile like that when confronted. Normal people apologized, looked embarrassed, maybe even laughed about the mistake. Vanessa had done none of those things. As the morning went on, Maya tried to focus on her work, but she found herself thinking about that smile. It reminded her of something, but she couldn't quite put her finger on what. Maybe it was like the look a cat gives a mouse right before pouncing, or the expression someone makes when they know a secret that you don't. During the lunch break, Maya mentioned the incident to her work friend Kelly from the design team. Kelly listened with growing concern as Maya described the morning's events. "That's really weird," Kelly said, poking at her salad. "Most new people are super nervous about making a good impression. They definitely don't start by taking someone's desk. Right? And it wasn't like she made an innocent mistake. She acted like she belonged there more than I did." Kelly glanced across the cafeteria toward where Vanessa was sitting alone, scrolling through her phone while eating a perfectly arranged lunch. "She does seem pretty confident for someone on their first day." Maya followed her gaze. Even from across the room, there was something about Vanessa that commanded attention. She carried herself like someone who was used to getting what she wanted when she wanted it. "Maybe I'm overthinking it," Maya said, though she didn't really believe that. "Trust your gut," Kelly advised. "If something feels off, it probably is." That afternoon, Maya tried to put the morning behind her and focus on the project she was working on for their biggest client. But every so often, she would catch Vanessa watching her from across the office. Not obviously staring, just casual glances that lingered a little too long. And every time their eyes met, there was that smile again. By 5 o'clock, Maya was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with work. As she packed up her things, she noticed Vanessa was still at her desk, typing away as if she planned to stay late. Maya tried not to think about what that might mean, but she couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow morning might bring another unpleasant surprise. Walking to her car, Maya realized she was looking forward to the weekend in a way she hadn't in a long time. 2 whole days without having to see that smile or feel like she was being studied like a lab rat. But as she drove home through the evening traffic, Maya couldn't stop thinking about one thing. In all the years she'd worked at TechFlow, she'd never met anyone quite like Vanessa, and something told her that this was only the beginning. The weekend passed too quickly for Maya's liking. By Sunday evening, she found herself feeling anxious about Monday morning in a way she never had before. She kept telling herself she was being silly, that the desk incident was probably just a one-time thing. New employees made mistakes all the time, right? But when Maya arrived at the office on Tuesday morning at her usual 8:15, her heart sank. There was Vanessa again, sitting in Maya's chair like she belonged there. This time, she had even brought her own coffee mug and placed it right next to Maya's chipped one, as if they were a matching set. Maya stood there for a moment, watching Vanessa type away on her laptop with complete confidence. The woman looked perfectly at ease, like someone who had been using this desk for years rather than someone who had started work just yesterday. "Good morning, Vanessa," Maya said, keeping her voice as professional as possible. "I think we need to clear up this seating situation. This really is my assigned workspace." Vanessa looked up slowly, and there was that smile again. the one that made Maya's stomach turn. "Oh, hi, Maya," she said sweetly, as if they were old friends running into each other at a coffee shop. "I hope you don't mind. I got here early and saw the desk was empty, so I thought I'd get a head start on my work." The way she said it made it sound so reasonable, so innocent. But Maya noticed that Vanessa's laptop was already fully set up. Her papers were organized, and she had even plugged in a small desk lamp that definitely hadn't been there the day before. "But this is my desk," Maya repeated, feeling foolish for having to say it again. "My nameplate is right there." Vanessa glanced at the nameplate as if she was seeing it for the first time. "Oh, that old thing. I figured someone forgot to remove it." She picked up the nameplate and handed it to Maya. "Here, you should probably take this to your real desk." Maya felt her cheeks get hot. The way Vanessa said "your real desk" made it sound like Maya was the one who was confused, like Maya was the problem. Several coworkers were starting to arrive and notice the interaction. Maya could feel their eyes on her, probably wondering why she was making such a big deal about where she sat. "Vanessa," Maya said, trying to keep her voice calm, "I've been sitting here for 2 years. Everyone knows this is my desk. I think there's been some kind of mix-up with your assignment." Vanessa tilted her head like she was considering this possibility for the first time. You might be right. I should probably check with HR about that." But she made no move to get up or pack her things. Instead, she turned back to her laptop and continued typing as if Maya wasn't standing there. Maya stood there for another moment, unsure of what to do next. She couldn't physically remove Vanessa from the chair, and making a bigger scene would only draw more attention. Finally, she walked over to Vanessa's assigned desk, 2 rows away, and sat down there instead. The desk felt wrong. The height was different. The view was blocked by a filing cabinet, and the morning sunlight didn't hit it the same way. Maya spent the entire day feeling displaced and uncomfortable, like she was sitting in someone else's life. But the worst part was how often she caught Vanessa looking at her. Every time Maya glanced up from her work, Vanessa was watching her with that same knowing smile. It was like Vanessa was enjoying Maya's discomfort, feeding off it somehow. Wednesday morning brought the same routine. Maya arrived at 8:15 to find Vanessa already settled at what used to be Maya's desk. This time, Vanessa had brought a small framed photo of herself and placed it right next to Maya's family pictures. The 2 photos sat side by side like they belonged together. "Morning, Maya," Vanessa called out cheerfully when she saw her approaching. "I talked to HR yesterday about the desk situation. They said I should just sit wherever I'm comfortable. Isn't that nice of them?" Maya felt a chill run down her spine. She had planned to call HR herself, but Vanessa had beaten her to it. "What exactly did they say?" "Oh, just that as long as I'm getting my work done, it doesn't matter where I sit. They're very flexible here." Vanessa's smile widened. "I told them how much I love this particular spot. The lighting is perfect for my work." Maya wanted to argue, wanted to point out that this wasn't about flexibility or lighting. But something in Vanessa's tone warned her against it. The woman seemed to be daring Maya to make a bigger deal out of it, as if she was curious to see how far Maya would push back. Instead, Maya walked to the other desk again, feeling defeated. As she sat down, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. Her succulent plant, the little green thing that had lived on her original desk for months, was now sitting on Vanessa's side of the workspace. It was small enough that most people wouldn't notice it had been moved, but Maya noticed. "Vanessa," she called out, trying to sound casual. "I think you accidentally grabbed my plant when you were setting up your space." Vanessa looked at the succulent as if she was seeing it for the first time. "This little guy? I thought it was just part of the desk setup. It looks so healthy here, doesn't it?" She reached out and touched one of the tiny leaves gently. "I've always been good with plants. They seem to thrive around me." The way she said it made Maya's skin crawl. It wasn't just about the plant anymore. It was about boundaries, about respect, about the subtle ways someone could make you feel like you were losing your grip on your own life. Over the next few days, Maya started noticing other small changes. Her favorite pen, a blue ballpoint that she'd been using for months, showed up on Vanessa's desk. When Maya asked about it, Vanessa claimed she'd found it on the floor and was just keeping it safe. Maya's desk calendar, which she'd marked with important deadlines and meetings, was suddenly being used by Vanessa to track her own appointments. Each incident was small enough that complaining about it would make Maya look petty. But together, they created a pattern that was impossible to ignore. Vanessa wasn't just using Maya's desk. She was slowly taking over Maya's entire workspace piece by piece. The worst part was how Vanessa acted around other people. Whenever their supervisor, Mr. Johnson, walked by, Vanessa was all smiles and professional charm. She complimented other coworkers on their work, remembered details about their personal lives, and always had a helpful suggestion or a funny story to share. "That new girl seems really nice," Maya overheard Lisa from accounting tell someone during lunch. "She's so confident and put together. Some people just have that natural leadership quality, you know?" Maya wanted to scream. If only they could see the way Vanessa looked at her when no one else was watching. If only they knew about the subtle ways Vanessa was pushing her out of her own workspace, claiming her things, making her feel like a stranger in her own office. By Friday of that second week, Maya was exhausted. She'd started arriving earlier and earlier, hoping to beat Vanessa to the desk, but somehow Vanessa was always there first. It was like she never left, like she'd set up camp and decided to stay. "You look tired," Vanessa said that Friday afternoon as Maya was packing up to leave. "This job must be really stressful for you." The fake concern in her voice made Maya want to throw something. "I'm fine," she said through gritted teeth. "You know," Vanessa continued, "if this workspace is causing you problems, I'd be happy to take it permanently. I hate to see you struggling." Maya looked up sharply. There it was, finally out in the open. Vanessa wasn't pretending this was accidental anymore. She was openly trying to push Maya out. "I'm not struggling," Maya said firmly. "And I'm not giving up my desk." Vanessa's smile never wavered, but something cold flashed in her eyes. "We'll see," she said quietly. As Maya walked to her car that evening, she realized that what had started as a simple workplace annoyance had turned into something much more serious. This wasn't about a desk anymore. This was about power, about control, about one person's determination to push another person out of their space. Maya had always considered herself a peaceful person, someone who avoided conflict whenever possible. But as she sat in her car in the parking garage, she made a decision. She wasn't going to let Vanessa win this game, whatever it was. Monday morning, things were going to change. Maya spent the entire weekend thinking about her situation with Vanessa. She replayed every interaction, every strange smile, every small theft of her personal items. By Sunday night, she had made up her mind. She wasn't going to let this continue. Monday morning. Maya arrived at the office at 7:45, 30 minutes earlier than usual. Her heart was pounding as she walked through the quiet hallways, hoping against hope that she would finally beat Vanessa to her desk. But as she rounded the corner, to her department, her heart sank. There was Vanessa, already settled in Maya's chair, sipping coffee from what looked like Maya's chipped mug. When she saw Maya approaching, Vanessa's face lit up with that familiar, unsettling smile. "Good morning, Maya," Vanessa called out cheerfully. "You're here early today, trying to beat me to something?" The question was asked so innocently, but Maya could hear the mockery underneath. Vanessa knew exactly what Maya had been trying to do. "How long have you been here?" Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Oh, I've been here since about 7, Vanessa said casually, taking another sip from Maya's mug. "I'm a real early bird, always have been." Maya felt her stomach drop. 7 in the morning meant Vanessa had been here for almost an hour. How was that even possible? Did the woman sleep in the office? "That's my coffee mug," Maya said, pointing to the chipped ceramic cup in Vanessa's hands. Vanessa looked down at the mug as if she was surprised to see it there. "Oh, this old thing. I found it in the kitchen. Nobody was using it, so I figured it was up for grabs." She took another deliberate sip. "It's actually quite comfortable to drink from. I think I'll keep using it." Maya opened her mouth to argue, but then closed it again. What was she supposed to say? That she had emotional attachment to a coffee mug? that she'd been using it for 2 years and it was practically a part of her morning routine? It would sound ridiculous to anyone listening. Instead, Maya went to sit at Vanessa's assigned desk again, feeling more frustrated than ever. As she settled into the wrong chair at the wrong height with the wrong view, she made a decision. She was going to document everything from now on. Every weird interaction, every stolen item, every uncomfortable moment. Throughout the week, Maya started keeping a detailed record of Vanessa's behavior. She wrote down times, dates, and exactly what happened. On Tuesday, Vanessa used Maya's stapler and then claimed she couldn't remember where she'd gotten it. On Wednesday, Vanessa reorganized Maya's family photos, turning them at different angles and moving them closer to her side of the desk. "I was just dusting," Vanessa explained when Maya asked about the photos. They looked a little neglected. By Thursday, Maya had noticed something else strange. Vanessa seemed to know things about Maya's work that she shouldn't know. During a team meeting, Vanessa mentioned details about a client project that Maya had been working on, details that were only in Maya's private files. "How did you know about the Johnson account changes?" Maya asked after the meeting. Vanessa looked confused, as if she didn't understand the question. "Oh, I must have overheard you talking about it with someone. You know how voices carry in an open office." But Maya knew she hadn't discussed those details with anyone. The changes had come in a confidential email just that morning. The breaking point came on Friday during their biggest client presentation of the month. Maya had been preparing for weeks, researching market trends and putting together a comprehensive proposal. She arrived that morning to find Vanessa not just sitting at her desk but actually using Maya's computer, reading through her presentation files. "Vanessa, what are you doing?" Maya asked, her voice sharper than she'd intended. "Oh, Mr. Johnson asked me to help with the presentation," Vanessa said without looking up from the screen. "He said you might need some support given how stressed you've been lately." Maya felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. "He asked you to help? When?" "This morning, actually. He came by early and said he was worried about the quality of the work." Vanessa finally looked up and there was that smile again. "Don't worry, I've been making some improvements to your research. I think the client will be much more impressed now." Maya stared at her computer screen in horror. Her carefully organized presentation had been completely rearranged. Slides had been moved around, her research had been rewritten, and worst of all, Vanessa's name had been added as the primary presenter. "You can't just change my work like this," Maya said, her voice getting louder despite her efforts to stay calm. "I'm just trying to help," Vanessa said innocently. "We're a team, right? We should support each other." Other co-workers were starting to notice the commotion. Maya could feel their eyes on her, could practically hear them thinking that she was being difficult and territorial. Vanessa, meanwhile, continued to look perfectly calm and professional, as if Maya was the one causing problems. The presentation itself was a nightmare. Maya had to stand awkwardly to one side while Vanessa presented what had originally been Maya's ideas, using Maya's research from Maya's computer. Every time Maya tried to contribute or clarify a point, Vanessa smoothly talked over her or redirected the conversation. "Maya's been working so hard on this project," Vanessa said at one point, flashing that perfect smile at the room full of clients and colleagues. "I'm just happy I could help her pull it all together." The clients loved the presentation. They praised the thorough research and professional delivery. But all the credit went to Vanessa, who accepted their compliments gracefully while occasionally mentioning Maya's support work in passing. After the clients left, Maya sat at the wrong desk, staring at her computer screen and feeling completely defeated. Everything she had worked for over the past month had been taken from her in a single morning, and somehow Vanessa had made it look like she was doing Maya a favor. "Great job today," Mr. Johnson said, stopping by Vanessa's desk, which was still really Maya's desk. "The clients were really impressed. I think we should have you take the lead on more presentations going forward." Maya watched from across the room as Vanessa beamed at their supervisor, accepting praise for work she hadn't done. When Mr. Johnson walked away, Vanessa turned toward Maya and gave her a small wave, as if they were sharing a private joke. That Afternoon, Maya made a decision that would change everything. She was going to find out who Vanessa really was and what she was really doing here. This couldn't be normal behavior, even for someone who was competitive or ambitious. There had to be more to the story. Maya started with a simple online search during her lunch break. She typed Vanessa Martinez TechFlow into the search engine, but that only brought up the company's announcement about new hires. So she tried just Vanessa Martinez with their city name. What she found made her blood run cold. The first result was a local news article from 6 months ago. Employee files harassment complaint against coworker. The article didn't mention names, but it described a situation that sounded eerily familiar. A new employee who gradually took over another worker's responsibilities, claimed credit for their work, and made them feel unwelcome in their own workplace. Maya clicked on more links, diving deeper into local business news and employment websites. She found mentions of similar situations at 3 different companies over the past 2 years. Always the same pattern. A confident new employee who seemed helpful at first, then gradually pushed established workers out of their positions. One article mentioned that the incidents typically started with small boundary violations, like claiming someone's workspace or personal items. The behavior would escalate until the original employee felt so uncomfortable that they either transferred to another department or quit entirely. Maya's hands were shaking as she read. This wasn't random workplace drama or even normal office politics. This was a pattern, a deliberate strategy that Vanessa had apparently used multiple times before. She printed out the articles and started making connections. In every case, the targeted employee was someone who was quiet, non-confrontational, and well-respected by their colleagues. Someone exactly like Maya. As she walked back to the office after lunch, Maya noticed something that made her stop in her tracks. Vanessa was standing by the window near Maya's old desk talking on her phone. But she wasn't just talking. She was taking photos. Photos of Maya's family pictures, her personal items, even the view from the window. Maya ducked behind a pillar and listened as much as she could without being obvious. The setup is perfect, Vanessa was saying into the phone. She's exactly the type I expected. Non-confrontational, doesn't like to make waves. It's going to be easier than the last one. Maya felt sick to her stomach. The last one? How many people? Had Vanessa done this too? I should have her position completely within another month or 2, Vanessa continued. She's already starting to crack under the pressure. A few more weeks of this and she'll either quit or have some kind of breakdown. Maya backed away slowly, her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone in the office could hear it. She had been right all along. This wasn't about a desk or office supplies or even work presentations. This was about something much more serious. Vanessa was deliberately trying to push Maya out of her job, and she had done it before to other people. Maya wasn't losing her mind or being overly sensitive. She was being targeted by someone who had turned. Maya spent that entire weekend planning her next move. She had printed out all the articles she'd found, organized her documentation of Vanessa's behavior, and even written down the exact words she'd overheard during that phone conversation. Everything was carefully arranged in a folder that she kept checking and rechecking, making sure she had solid evidence of what was happening. Monday morning felt different. For the first time in weeks, Maya wasn't dreading going to work. She was nervous, yes, but it was the kind of nervousness that comes with finally taking action, instead of just letting things happen to you. She arrived at the office at her normal time, 8:15, and wasn't surprised to see Vanessa already settled at what used to be Maya's desk. But today, instead of feeling defeated, Maya felt determined. "Good morning, Vanessa," Maya said, walking straight up to the desk with her folder in hand. Vanessa looked up with that familiar smile, but Maya noticed something different in her eyes. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the first hint that she sensed something had changed. "Morning, Maya. You seem cheerful today, that's nice to see." "I am feeling better, actually," Maya said, pulling up a chair so she was sitting right across from Vanessa. "I've been doing some thinking over the weekend, about our situation here." Vanessa's fingers paused over her keyboard. "Our situation?" "Yes. The desk situation, the work situation, all of it." Maya opened her folder and pulled out the first printed article. I found some interesting reading material about workplace behavior and patterns of employee displacement. For the first time since Maya had met her, Vanessa's smile faltered slightly. Her eyes flicked to the papers in Maya's hands, then back to Maya's face. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Vanessa said carefully. Really? Because this article from 6 months ago describes a situation that sounds very familiar. A new employee who gradually takes over someone else's workspace, claims their work, and makes them feel so uncomfortable that they eventually leave. Maya placed the article on the desk right next to Vanessa's laptop. She watched as Vanessa's eyes scanned the headline and saw the exact moment when recognition flashed across her face. This could be about anyone, Vanessa said, but her voice wasn't as confident as usual. Could be. But then I found this one. Maya placed another article on the desk. And this one. And this one. She continued adding papers until there was a small stack of evidence in front of Vanessa. Maya, I think you might be overthinking things, Vanessa said, but she was no longer looking at Maya directly. Her eyes kept darting to the articles, reading bits and pieces of the headlines. Am I? Because I also have documentation of everything that's happened since you started here. The desk claiming, the personal item taking, the work interference. All of it written down with dates and times. Maya pulled out her notebook and opened it to pages covered with neat handwriting. Day 1. Vanessa claims my desk, refuses to move, when asked. Day 3. Vanessa begins using my personal coffee mug. Day 5. Vanessa takes my succulent plant. Should I keep going? By now, other co-workers were starting to arrive and notice the unusual scene. Tom from the neighboring cubicle was pretending to organize his papers, but Maya could tell he was listening. Lisa from HR had stopped walking and was standing near the printer, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. Vanessa glanced around at their growing audience and seemed to realize that her usual tactics weren't going to work. She couldn't smile her way out of this one or make Maya look like the problem when Maya had actual evidence in front of her. I think you're being paranoid, Vanessa said, but her voice sounded strained. These articles could be about completely different situations. Maybe. But then I heard your phone conversation on Friday afternoon. Vanessa went very still. What phone conversation? The one where you said I was exactly the type you expected. Non-confrontational, doesn't like to make waves. The one where you said you'd have my position within a month or two. Maya watched as all the color drained from Vanessa's face. For the first time since they'd met, Vanessa looked genuinely shocked, like someone who had been caught doing something she thought no one would ever discover. I never had any such conversation, Vanessa said. But even as she said it, her eyes were darting around the office as if looking for an escape route. You also said it would be easier than the last one. The last one, Vanessa. How many people have you done this to? Maya's voice was getting louder despite her efforts to stay calm. She could feel the attention of everyone nearby, could sense that this conversation had moved beyond a private dispute into something that the whole office was going to remember. Vanessa stood up abruptly, her chair rolling backward. I don't have to listen to these accusations. You're clearly having some kind of breakdown and I think you need professional help. But as she said it, Vanessa was gathering her things quickly, shoving her laptop into her bag and grabbing her papers. Her movements were hurried and panicked, not at all like the confident, calculated person Maya had been dealing with for weeks. Where are you going? Maya asked, standing up as well. I'm going to report this conversation to HR. Your behavior is completely inappropriate and unprofessional. But even as Vanessa said it, Maya could see the fear in her eyes. This wasn't someone who was planning to file a complaint. This was someone who was planning to run. Actually, came a voice from behind them. I think we should all go to HR together. Maya turned to see Mr. Johnson, their supervisor, standing a few feet away. His face was serious, and Maya realized he had probably heard at least part of their conversation. Mr. Johnson, Vanessa started, immediately switching back to her charming, professional tone. Maya seems to be having some kind of personal crisis. She's making wild accusations and disrupting the workplace. But Mr. Johnson wasn't looking at Vanessa with the usual approval Maya had seen in his eyes. Instead, he looked concerned and thoughtful. "I think we need to get Ms. Patricia from HR and have a proper meeting about this situation," he said. "All three of us right now." Vanessa's facade cracked completely. "That's really not necessary. I'm sure Maya and I can work this out ourselves." "Actually, it is necessary," Mr. Johnson said firmly, "especially given what I overheard just now about phone conversations in previous situations. This sounds like something that needs official attention." Maya felt a surge of relief so strong it almost made her dizzy. Someone in authority was finally taking this seriously. Someone was finally going to listen to her side of the story. The walk to the HR office felt like the longest few minutes of Maya's life. Vanessa walked slightly ahead of them, her usual confident stride replaced by quick, nervous steps. She kept checking her phone and looking toward the exit as if she was calculating whether she could make a run for it. Ms. Patricia, the HR manager, was a woman in her 50s who had a reputation for being fair but thorough. When Mr. Johnson explained that they needed to discuss a workplace conflict, she immediately cleared her schedule and asked them all to sit down in her office. "Now then," Ms. Patricia said, settling behind her desk with a notepad, "why don't we start from the beginning? Maya, would you like to tell me what's been happening?" Maya took a deep breath and opened her folder. This was it. This was her chance. To finally be heard. To finally have someone in authority understand what she'd been going through. As she began to speak, laying out the timeline of events and showing her documentation, Maya watched Vanessa's face carefully. The woman who had seemed so confident and in control for weeks was now fidgeting in her chair, avoiding eye contact and looking increasingly uncomfortable. But Maya also noticed something else. Even as she presented her evidence, even as she told her story in careful, factual detail, Vanessa was still smiling. It was smaller than usual, more controlled, but it was still there. And Maya realized that this confrontation might not be the end of the story. It might just be the beginning of a different kind of game entirely. The HR meeting lasted almost 3 hours. Maya presented all of her evidence methodically, from the printed articles about similar workplace situations to her detailed notebook documenting every strange interaction with Vanessa. Ms. Patricia listened carefully, taking notes and asking clarifying questions. Vanessa's story kept changing. First, she claimed she had no idea what Maya was talking about. Then she said Maya was being overly sensitive about normal workplace interactions. When pressed about the phone conversation Maya had overheard, Vanessa insisted it must have been a misunderstanding. "I may have been talking to my sister about a completely different situation," Vanessa said, but her voice lacked conviction. Maya obviously heard bits and pieces and put together the wrong story. Ms. Patricia looked skeptical. The conversation Maya described was very specific, about non-confrontational people and taking someone's position within a month or two. That's quite detailed for a misunderstanding. The turning point came when Ms. Patricia made a phone call to Vanessa's previous employer. Maya watched Vanessa's face go pale as the HR manager asked pointed questions about employee turnover and workplace conflicts. After hanging up, Ms. Patricia sat quietly for a long moment, reviewing her notes. "Vanessa," she finally said, "I've just learned that your previous company had to let 3 employees transfer to different departments due to workplace stress and conflicts. All 3 situations involved disputes over workspace and work responsibilities." Vanessa shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "People have conflicts sometimes. That's normal in any workplace. What's not normal is having the same type of conflict follow you to multiple jobs," Ms. Patricia replied. "And what's definitely not normal is the pattern Maya has documented here." Maya felt a mix of vindication and relief. Finally, someone in authority could see what had been happening. Finally, she wasn't the one who looked crazy or overly sensitive. Mr. Johnson, who had been quiet through most of the meeting, spoke up. "I have to admit I've noticed some concerning behavior over the past few weeks. The way the Johnson account presentation was handled, for example. Maya had been working on that project for a month, and suddenly Vanessa was presenting it as if it were her own work. That was just team collaboration," Vanessa protested, but even she seemed to realize how weak that sounded. Ms. Patricia closed her notebook with a decisive snap. Vanessa, I'm going to be very direct with you. Based on what I've heard today, and what I've learned from your previous employer, I believe you've been engaging in a pattern of workplace harassment designed to push Maya out of her position. Vanessa's mask finally slipped completely. The sweet, helpful coworker persona disappeared, replaced by something cold and calculating. You can't prove any of that, she said, her voice sharp. Maya is just a weak person who can't handle a little competition. If she can't deal with a dynamic workplace, maybe she should find somewhere else to work. The honesty was shocking. After weeks of pretending to be helpful and innocent, Vanessa had finally revealed her true attitude. Maya saw Miss Patricia's eyebrows raise, and Mr. Johnson actually leaned back in his chair as if he'd been physically struck. Actually, Miss Patricia said calmly, Maya has proven it quite well. She's documented a clear pattern of behavior, supported by evidence of similar situations at your previous workplaces, and now you've just confirmed that you view Maya as weak and believe she should leave rather than deal with what you call competition. Vanessa seemed to realize she'd made a mistake. She tried to backtrack, to return to her innocent act, but it was too late. The truth was out. I think we're done here, Ms. Patricia said. Vanessa, please pack your personal belongings. Your employment with TechFlow Solutions is terminated immediately. Maya watched as Vanessa's face cycled through several emotions, shock, anger, and finally a kind of cold acceptance. But even as she was being fired, even as her plan had completely fallen apart, Vanessa turned to Maya one last time. That smile was back. The same unsettling expression that had started this whole nightmare weeks ago. You think you've won something? Vanessa said quietly so only Maya could hear. But you haven't. You're still the same weak person you were before. Next time someone like me comes along, you'll fold just as easily. Maya looked back at her steadily. No, she said. I won't. Security escorted Vanessa out of the building an hour later. Maya watched from her window, the window that belonged to her original desk, the desk she was finally sitting at again. Vanessa didn't look back as she walked to her car, but Maya could see the rigid set of her shoulders, the way she held her head high even in defeat. The office was buzzing with gossip for the rest of the week. Word had gotten around about what had happened, though the details became more dramatic with each retelling. Maya found herself something of a minor celebrity, the person who had stood up to the manipulative coworker and won. But Maya knew the victory wasn't as simple as people thought. The experience had changed her in ways she was still figuring out. She was more confident now, more willing to speak up when something didn't feel right. But she was also more suspicious, more alert to the subtle ways people could try to manipulate situations. Kelly from the design team stopped by her desk a few days after Vanessa left. I have to ask, Kelly said. How did you figure it out? I mean, I thought she seemed a little intense, but I never would have guessed she was doing all that stuff on purpose. Maya looked up from her computer. I think the key was trusting my instincts. From day one, something felt wrong about the way she acted. Instead of dismissing that feeling, I paid attention to it. But how did you know to look up those articles to research her background? I didn't know exactly, but when the pattern kept repeating, when she kept escalating her behavior, I realized this couldn't be normal workplace drama. Normal people don't act like that. Kelly nodded thoughtfully. It's scary to think about, like how many other people are out there doing the same thing. Maya had been wondering the same thing. In the weeks following Vanessa's departure, she'd received 2 emails from people at other companies. Somehow word had gotten around about what had happened, and others were reaching out with similar stories. One email was from a woman named Rachel, who worked at a marketing firm across town. She described a situation almost identical to Maya's, a new coworker who had systematically taken over her workspace and responsibilities until Rachel felt pushed out of her own job. I wish I'd had your courage, Rachel wrote. I ended up transferring to a different department just to get away from the stress. Reading about what you did made me realize I should have fought back. The other email was from a man named Carlos, who had experienced something similar at his previous job. His story had a less happy ending. He'd eventually quit, rather than continue dealing with the workplace stress, and it had taken him months to find another position. These messages made Maya realize that her experience with Vanessa wasn't an isolated incident. There were people out there who had turned workplace manipulation into a strategy for advancing their careers, and most of their targets never fought back. Maya decided to do something about it. She reached out to Ms. Patricia about creating a workplace awareness program, something that would help employees recognize the signs of psychological manipulation and know how to respond. "It's a great idea," Ms. Patricia said when Maya proposed it. "Most people don't realize that workplace harassment doesn't always look like obvious bullying. Sometimes it's much more subtle." They developed a series of lunch and learn sessions where employees could discuss workplace dynamics and learn to identify problematic behaviors. Maya shared her story as a case study, explaining how small boundary violations had escalated into a systematic campaign of harassment. The response was overwhelming. Colleagues came forward with their own stories of workplace manipulation, some current and some from previous jobs. Maya realized that her experience with Vanessa had opened up a conversation that was long overdue. 6 months later, Maya was promoted to Senior Marketing Coordinator. The promotion came with a raise, more responsibilities, and her choice of workspaces. She chose to keep her original desk by the window, the one she'd fought so hard to reclaim. On the day of her promotion, Maya found a card on her desk from Tom, her cubicle neighbor who had witnessed the original confrontation with Vanessa. "Congratulations on your promotion," the card read. "But more importantly, congratulations on standing up for yourself. You showed all of us what it looks like to refuse to be pushed around." Maya smiled as she read the message. The experience with Vanessa had been one of the most stressful periods of her professional life, but it had also taught her valuable lessons about courage, persistence, and the importance of trusting her instincts. She kept her documentation folder from the Vanessa situation in her desk drawer, not because she expected to need it again, but as a reminder that sometimes the most important battles are the ones that start small, with something as simple as someone claiming your seat. And whenever new employees joined the company, Maya made sure to introduce herself personally. She wanted them to feel welcome and supported, but she also wanted them to know that TechFlow Solutions was a place where people looked out for each other.